It's happening again as the Montreal Canadiens have been linked to multiple trade targets that have been linked to Montreal before, as in recent days, Dave Pagnotta of the fourth period has linked Montreal to a goaltender also in the Atlantic Division, but also Montreal has sent some scouts out to one team that has been a noted seller this year with some names that have been closely tied to the Montreal Canadiens. We got to dive into all of that, plus Alexander Zharovsky once again putting up 2 points, both on the power play, as he is heading to the KHL All-Star game. So much to dive into, and we'll start here with our boy, KHL All-Star Media Vote results. The Ural All-Stars, Alexander Zharovsky is one of the 3 representatives from that division. What an incredible season he has had, Jesse. You could argue power play merchant, but I say, hey, if you're doing good on the power play, you're definitely a fit pretty much everywhere. Again, back tied for the team lead in points with 22 in just 25 games, including a couple of beautiful assists today. Glad to see he's getting some recognition. Not only is he going to the All-Star game, he's on pace still to have more points than Ivan Demidov did last year.
And how about the precision on those passes here? Pinpoint accuracy, just making it so easy for his teammates. Once again, just orchestrating things in the offensive zone on the power play, showing why he is the best rookie in the KHL and obviously representing his team at the All-Star game going up, Josh. And you had mentioned he's got 22 points in 25 games, which is setting himself up right now to get more points than Demidov, as we know. A big reason of that, of course, is the power play, that playmaking, and that goal scoring. The fact that he can do both, but obviously just playing with a lot of certainty right now, which is just allowing him to have so much success. Of course, it is caveated by the fact that he is getting about twice the amount of ice time that Demidov got on the power play. He's averaging about 3 minutes compared to Ivan Demidov's 1.5 minutes in the KHL. That being said, it's like he's just doing phenomenal things of like what you'd expect him for as an offensive player. He's doing what the coaches asked him to do. The next kind of phase is going to be, okay, how can we kind of expand that even more to 5v5? But I've liked his game even in transition, Josh, which is just giving me a lot of promise that will really have the makings of a true offensive dynamite here in Zharovsky.
Yeah, I like it a lot. There's a lot of elements to his game that look like they will translate. But look, we ultimately won't know until he makes that leap. And he can't this year. Next year, after next season, he definitely could. But look, at the end of the day, I'll take whatever I can get from an 18-year-old that I don't think anyone... There was a world where he didn't even make the KHL team this year, right? At the start of the season, we're like, that'd be cool if he got some KHL minutes. Now he's leading his team in scoring. He's going to the All-Star game, not even as just a young player, like an actual representative from his team, on pace to have more points than him. Incredible season so far for him. So we got to keep you updated every single time we talk about him, because it's a very important thing. But we're going to move on to some of the trade stuff, because this has been pretty much everything that's been circulating around the Habs lately. We talked about some Sherwood stuff yesterday, but recently there's been some more talk here, especially around the St. Louis Blues. Now, Sean Hutchian, who does some work for the Boston Bruins in the media department, Scouts Row is filled tonight for Blues versus Bruins. The game's being scouted by half the league, basically, but Montreal is right there among the teams. Now, usually a scouting report doesn't necessarily mean that a team is actively wanting to trade, but St. Louis has made it known that they are open for business. Elliot Friedman himself has said that there are very few untouchables on this team. Now, you have to imagine someone like Robert Thomas might be, and Colton Parayko, both of those guys have been kind of said to not really be up for trade, but there's so many other interesting names. Dylan Holloway is one too. Like, some people have said he's untouchable. I haven't heard his name as of late. Jesse, there's a lot of big names on the St. Louis Blues. Again, Kyrou, though, is the one that we have heard linked to Montreal before, right before the Bolduc and Mailloux trade. We were monitoring what was going on with him right down to the second that his no movement clause kicked in. How you feeling about Montreal going to scout St. Louis? Do you think this could mean something? Because I genuinely think Kent Hughes is sending all his reps out to check on anyone that even could be a decent fit for this team.
And it's part of a trend right now. We're seeing lots of scouting activity around the league coming up to the to the Christmas roster freeze. And that's why it's having a lot of trade talks heating up. And of course, scouts always attend every game, but just the volume that we're seeing right now is really just through the roof. Again, if you're talking about a guy like Jordan Kyrou, it's very interesting because, again, in certain ways, like offensively, he looks like he could fit. Maybe in other ways, for whatever reason, Josh, vibes, I don't know. We won't want to get into semantics too much. You could say like, oh, maybe he's not like a fit for the Montreal Canadiens. But I bring up the point, I'm not saying that we should do a Kyrou trade, but I think it's important to bring up somebody like a Trevor Zegras, for example, where we talked about him and the production was there. Maybe seemed like not a fit for this locker room. And you can get why we're defensive of it. Maybe Kent Hughes as well, like to get that perfect fit. But then he goes over to Philly, and then he's having a renaissance right now. 10 goals, 16 assists in 26 games. He's a point per game player right now for the Philadelphia Flyers. And there's nothing to say that Jordan Kyrou, under the certain circumstances, couldn't do that, or even better, given some of his phenomenal production that we have seen from him in the past. Obviously, other notables, we'll go to maybe a little bit more unlikely here, but is in Robert Thomas, that obviously would be phenomenal. I mean, Josh, like, what's better than having one Nick Suzuki on your team? Two Nick Suzukis. Obviously, we've seen how that works really well. Obviously, will probably not be available because of just how important that he is to that team. However, I'm just loving, Josh, that we're seeing a lot of movement, and he's had to feel like that once that first domino falls, it could trigger a whole lot of other movement.
That's exactly it. Like, all it takes is for something to go down, for even St. Louis to hear, okay, I don't mind that offer, because that can be like, whatever team it is, they might be like, okay, now it's time, because the team has been struggling. I mean, look at my U, a minus 15 to 15 games with 1 point. Sorry, I hate to bring that up all the time, but like, I still think he'll be good. Anyway, I should stop. But look, Robert Thomas is amazing. Again, not having the best year, but a lot of the Blues are like Pavel Buchnevich, $8 million on a 6-year deal, not really rolling. But again, some of these guys, like, the Blues were good last year, and we've seen, like, I'm also done doubting the Blues, because after that Stanley Cup run, like, I know it's a different roster, but like, I don't care if they look terrible right now in December, because they could be amazing come March or April. And I think that goes for a lot of different teams. So I know they'll be monitoring their situation closely, but hey, if they're open for business, Montreal absolutely should and are looking into who they could acquire from them. Leave your thoughts on all these players. Maybe someone in here catches your eye. Let us know. But let's move on quickly to the final report here today. Now, this is a really interesting one. And comes from Dave Pagnotta, the fourth period. Article linked down below. Straight up noted the Montreal Canadiens and Edmonton Oilers may be two teams eyeing Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen out of Buffalo. Now, why on earth would Montreal be looking at a goalie? Well, I just want to say that there's precedence for this, which is crazy enough as it is. But Elliot Friedman, if you guys remember, just a couple weeks ago, when he was talking about the Habs goaltending rumors on 32 Thoughts, said, you know, to me, the one interesting guy is going to be Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. And Buffalo is going through a bit of a rough patch. But I gotta say, I don't get it. I think not only do I not understand why Montreal would make this trade, I think it would be stupid to make this trade. And I'm sorry, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, you probably have the best name in the NHL. I love hearing you say it in all those social media clips. But to me, Jesse, like, he's 26 years old, 6'5", 223, some solid NHL numbers, but like, I don't see him actually doing any better than Monty or Dobeš. And again, we still have Fowler as an insurance policy. Capo Kakinen, in the worst case, if we want to bring him up, he's a fringe NHL goalie. Like, to me, any of these goalie rumors, I don't want to say they're baseless because it's been repeated by a few different insiders now. But like, at the same time, I just don't see how someone like this moves the needle for us at all, quite frankly.
Yeah, and you have to bring it up, though, because our goaltending right now has been below average.
Yes.
I'm not a fan of doing this move. Like, I'm a big believer that Dobeš can have a lot of success for the Montreal Canadiens, and Monty in a little bit more of a limited role. And I want to see that combo, that tandem of Fowler and Dobeš. I know I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but I could see that. I'm not forgetting what Dobeš did to start off his NHL career, 5 straight wins, how he even started off this season. Yeah. Habs Nation, we need to remember how Dobeš started off this season. Look at our record. We still have a very decent record as well. Things are not as bad as they seem whatsoever. Second in the Atlantic, obviously moving, changing every single moment here. But again, like right now, if you look at Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen stat, it's just slightly below 900 save percentage, 8.99. 900 is about like the average that you get around the league. But the big thing for the Habs, again, it's actually amazing considering the success we've had, considering that our goaltending has been far below league average. Now, that being said, it's like Dobeš had a strong outing in his last game, only allowing 2 goals. Monty's been a little bit of a roller coaster, but he's even shown those positive signs. I think he's going to rebound back. Of course, it's a lot to kind of put on Dobeš to kind of put him into what seems like a starting position so soon, which if you're Kent Hughes, you have to be looking around because you have to think there's like a couple games where it's like if our goaltending's a little bit better, we're getting those points. So you have to think about it, but it's being patient, knowing that there's some other things on this team that are really important. And obviously, Marty's working on the defensive zone, which I think is a big part of it. We're not saying that Monty or, Dobeš isn't to blame for anything, but I think we have to look at the full picture when we're looking at our goaltending situation, which really would encourage us to really be patient for the moment.
Yeah, and I think that's the right play. Like, there's no reason to rush it. Like, play it slow. Like, none of these, it's not like we're committed to any of our goalies for the next, 6-7 years. Eventually, Fowler might be, but for now, Monty's got a little bit left on his deal. Dobesh too. It's like we can afford to be patient. And look, I know there's rumors about Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, and if you look at the St. Louis stuff, there's some people talking about bringing Binnington to Montreal, which again, like he was clutch for Team Canada with a great defense in front of him, but historically he's not been that great when the defense in front of him has not been good. So there's a lot of very interesting names out there, and you're right. I think it's worth looking into, but also worth being patient. So leave your thoughts on this, because we're not sold on doing this move right now, or even that Montreal should be looking, but it's good that Kent is keeping his options open, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. So that'll do it for this episode. Listen, we got constant news coming out about the Habs, and if you want to stay up to date, this is the spot to be. Hitting that subscribe button below is completely free, and we got your back for all the latest news, I promise. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.